The innovation in government is extremely important for many different reasons because starting with stagnation, right? Like we just have not moved in the last decade or so. And what the pandemic did was forced us to think a little bit differently. It magnified the problem, and people, I think the sympathy changed into empathy in a way. People started to self-realize what the impact of certain things are, and the advantages. Basically, we also got to see some new technology tools along the way which were forced on them, but there's a sense of appreciation. Also, as I said, we have not changed much for the last 10 years or so, so we have a bucket list of items, and now we are basically checking off the bucket list in newer ways, right? Like saying, hey, this could be solved in differently. Let's think a little bit differently. Let's think now versus past. Let's think future, right? So I think innovation is important that way, where people start to think differently. We have to position ourselves to the future. Are we ready for the next pandemic? It's going to come. It's a matter of when, right? It's always like, because it happened 100 years later, but we got to set ourselves to a path where we can continue the journey of innovating ourselves. So, like for me, innovation is important, right? The key takeaways, if I would be thinking of from my panel discussion, is innovation is important, critical, but just don't do it for the sake of it. Meaningful innovation. So I talked about disruption in the panel, this thing, because it's got to be a constructive disruption, right? Just don't disrupt people just for the sake of it. People don't like it, right? But we have to be meaningful, thoughtful, and deliberate about the changes that we need. So the key takeaway is plan in advance, create that bucket list, create that list of items which are your pain points, and start thinking about different ways to solve it, right? So the biggest takeaway I would say is have a collaborative approach, right? Don't do it in isolation, right? Involve the right players, collaborate, empower the people to think. That's how innovation, that's how it's born, right? If it's my own thinking, like, okay, great, right? That's pretty much it. I can feel happy, that satisfy my ego. But the bottom line is, with collaboration, involve all the people, empower the people to think innovatively. Usually brilliant ideas come out of it. Right, so I think the conferences like this, right, Government Innovation Summit, but the name by itself, right? The idea is it's kind of creates some curiosity. Hey, what's innovation within government that's happening? It opens up for people to think, right? Start thinking about what that means. So we heard the word innovation like 25 times today, like at least, right? And what does that mean? What kind of curiosity? Like it basically says, okay, innovation is not just, there is no one meaning to it, right? And there are multiple people approaching that in multiple ways. The conferences like this, which are great because it brings people together, the networking piece of it, that's important, right? Like I at least got to meet few people and they said, hey, let's catch up, right? This is important, right? Or somebody wants to talk to me about what I did, which is equally important. And me getting to know what others are doing, sharing ideas, bringing people together, what's happening in the public sector, what's happening in the private sector, what are the takeaways we can take from these kind of conferences and go back and start trying to implement in our places. Because most of the people problems are the same. It's always good to share the common problems. So I think it's important. Conferences like this brings people together and gives us takeaways when we go back, which is critical. I think it's just being part of public health the last 2 years. For me, it opened up my eyes a lot too. I kind of know what public health does. I've been in public health for a while. I have an understanding of, but the depth of it, right? And how quickly we have to react, how much our workforce like stood up, up front, taking care of a lot of things, and how much we have to pivot from our daily jobs to do some of these stuff. So that's a kind of being part of that journey itself made me really proud. But as an individual accomplishment is like, ability to implement solutions, right? Not just like working hard is one, but working hard and seeing the results, right? The vaccinate.virginia.gov, the vaccination portal, the vaccination scheduling, and everything around vaccinations, standing up a call center. There are a lot of technology. In the panel discussion I was talking about robotics process automation. That's, to me, it's like a pet peeve. It's a huge thing. It's going to be a game changer for public health, where it saves people their time and they can do their job while we do this. So individually, I think bringing in those kind of technologies and enabling people to do their daily job much more efficiently. So